Welcome in to another edition of the shorthanded version of the Pro Hockey News Podcast, First Line Edition. Mr. Goldsmith is in parts unknown. I think he knows where he is, but unknown parts to Richard Cote and Nick the intern. That's it, just Nick the intern. That's what we're going with. I'm deciding. Just Canadians don't get full names. It says the exchange rate, his name has to be shorter than it really is.
25% shorter.
Well, I mean that's a tariff issue on top of the issue with the exchange rate, so it's almost like 50% shorter, really, when you think about it. Yeah. Canadians are half as important.
Oh, okay.
Hey, boo our anthem, and this is what you get, Ottawa.
What should I do?
You live in the province, don't you?
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Exactly. So there you go. Thank you to our friends at mycustomsportshare.com. They've put where they can put anything on a chair that you want. Check them out. PHN20 is the code. I believe Richard, for his birthday, for his wife's birthday, he bought her a chair with his face on it. That's what I heard. So you got the My Custom Sports chair, and Richard's face is now what she sits on.
I'm not so sure what you've been hearing, but okay. No, that we talked about this. It didn't happen. Remember?
Didn't happen. Well,
it was supposed to be like a crowdfunding, right? You were going to crowdfund that. Because I did my part. I did the nice breakfast. I took the day off, and you were going to crowdfund the My Custom Sports chair.
Was I? Is that how it was going to work?
I think that's how it was going to work.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Okay. Well, it shows.
But anyway, go check them out, mycustomsportshare.com. If you don't want Richard's face, you can get some better logos than that. We are joining you on Wednesday this week. This is Wednesday the 26th, and we're coming to you after a big night in the NHL last night. Do you realize what last night was, Richard?
I probably not thinking the same thing you are, so I will happily bite on this. What was it?
It's the obligatory, we may have seen a Stanley Cup final preview game.
Oh.
Because, we had the best versus the best. And it took them longer than 60 minutes to figure it out.
It did take, that was a good game. That was a real good game.
It was, yeah. The Jets beat the Capitals 3-2 in overtime, and the answer but more importantly, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. He scored. Because nobody cares that the Jets and the Capitals are the first two teams to qualify for the playoffs. And the first two teams to hit 100 points, and they battle for the President's trophy. But guess what? Is anything odder right now than the fact that the biggest story in Washington should be that they're leading the league in points, which nobody saw coming. But that's not even the biggest story coming out of DC hockey.
Well, I mean, when you have a record as untouchable as Gretzky's record was, and you have a player who's as close as Ovi is, I don't care how good your team is. You could be 2 years removed Boston Bruins, setting points records, and the biggest story is still going to be, is he going to get the record? Because we know the Capitals, they're good this year. Somehow they're good this year. Ovi getting this close to breaking Gretzky's record and potentially breaking it this season, it's not a given, so we're going to pay close attention to that. But realistically, it's a given. It's going to happen. We know that.
11 regular season games to go as of recording this. Unfortunately, tough news for Lonnie. I don't think he's going to score 6 goals Thursday night in Minnesota.
I mean, he could.
Well, the way Minnesota's playing, possible.
Right.
Yes.
It's possible.
John Butchergross brought up something really interesting on the socials today, saying that in his opinion, the best thing that can happen for the NHL is Ovechkin to fall 1 goal short or tie the record, so they have all summer to promote it. Because in the States right now, it's not getting the coverage that a lot of people probably want it to have.
So this is going to be a really stupid question. Is this regular season goals? Because
yes,
he still has postseason.
Playoffs don't count.
towards your
They don't
career
count
goals. Come on.
Yeah, records don't matter. And the postseason is a different season. There's two seasons in hockey.
Okay.
Like in all sports. I've always found it weird. But yes, postseasons don't matter. In
Because it's not an equal
records.
playing field, I guess.
I have no clue why.
Because they should. They absolutely should.
I don't disagree.
Okay, I thought you might.
Because it's a team sport and you have to make it to the postseason as a team.
So we
I'm just
promote
making-
individual stats to get that. I don't know. Okay. But
these are all regular season records.
Yes, having him fall one goal short would absolutely be the best thing for the league. It's not going to happen. He's got 10 games to score 6 goals. He's breaking it this season. We know this.
Do we? For sure. Guaranteed.
I would, Adam, if you are willing to place a gentleman's wager on this, I will bet he breaks the record this season.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I was just wondering where you were going. I mean, you were guaranteeing it. I want to know what we're
whatever my guarantee is worth. Sure, I'll throw it out there. I guarantee it's going to happen.
Okay. So you're saying you're not worth a darn.
I mean, I know what I am.
Okay.
We know this.
You know your place and you're comfortable with it.
I absolutely am. I'm the ace of my space.
I have. Okay. That's great. It's awesome. I mean, if you're
would you? Are you going to disagree with it, or you just no? Okay.
I don't disagree. So, but by the way, if we were counting the playoffs, Gretzky had 122 playoff goals, and Ovechkin has 72.
So it'd be a little shy.
Yeah. So in terms of like overall career goals, he yes. If you're going to add the playoffs, he's 50. When he gets there, he'll need 50 more. Now, there's not. I will go on a limb and say when it's all said and done, he will eclipse Gretzky's overall total with his overall total, regular season and playoffs combined.
You think he's got a few more seasons in him?
I mean, to get 50, he needs 56 more goals to get there. A deep playoff run this year gets him there next year.
If he has an average season next year.
Yeah, because if they're going to get deep in the playoffs, it means he's scoring.
But if he gets deep in the playoffs, how is he going to be next year?
Because he's not going to score 50 in the playoffs this year.
Is he going to break his leg again? Is he going to be out for like 2 weeks and then score 18 more goals right after that?
No, he'll get it next season. I'm just saying he's going to get it next season. I think he's got between now and the end of next season, does he have 56 goals in him?
56 goals. Okay, so I'm saying he has at least 6 goals before the end of the season. You think he's going to get 10 in the postseason? 5 in the postseason?
I'd say 5 to 10. I'd say let's go 5.
Okay, so that puts him what?
I give him 3. I give him like 3 around.
Okay.
So let's go. I mean 9 if they make it to the conference finals.
Okay. So that's 15. He would need. You said 54. He'd be shy. 50.
He needs 50 more once he needs 56 total to tie Gretzky's overall.
So he'd be 41 shy going into the next season with your estimate.
And between the regular season and making the playoffs next season, I can see that 41.
Oh, they're making the playoffs next season.
Well, if you make it this season, of course you're making it next season. That always happens in the NHL. What are you talking about?
Okay. All right.
I mean, he had 31 last year, 42 the year before, 50 the year before that. He's not exactly slowing down.
No, but 40 goals in a season, even for him, is still like in the upper range of what he normally does.
So if he breaks the record this year, like you say he is, he's going to have a 40-plus season, which would mean 3 of the last 4 seasons he's had 40-plus. In fact, in 2021, which I think things happened that year, and he only played 45 games. Just in case you're... So if you take out the COVID year, He hasn't scored less than 40 since 2016-17. 49, 51, 48, 50, 42, 31, 36.
Okay.
So
Maybe
40 is not abnormal for him.
it's not, no, it's not abnormal.
That's how good he is. Is he just you just forget truly the numbers he does per season. His 82 game average is 49 goals. That's what he averages a year over his 20-year career. 20-year career averaging 49 goals a year.
That's unreal.
It is. 49 goals a year, which consequentially is the exact same number that Gretzky had over his 20-year career was an average of 49 goals. But funny how that works.
Yeah.
The assists, Gretzky's assists are what changes the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah. His 500,000 assists in his career. I believe.
Rounding to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a thing there. So yeah. So that's the Ovi watch. We've got, man, a lot's happened in the last 2 weeks since this line met. Even in the last week since you guys met in terms of the standings.
Mm-hmm.
The Blues are surging. They just don't lose with their easy schedule. They're doing what's handed in front of them. The Wild can't win, and their schedule just gets tougher. And they've got a bunch of 4-point games down the stretch with teams chasing them. And the Oilers aren't terrible without McDavid and Draisaitl. That's the West. And the East is just a freaking disaster for the wild card too. Like, let's start there with wild card 2 of Montreal, New York, Columbus, Detroit. Like, does it even matter? They're all so bad in so many ways.
Yeah. Let's see. So if the season were to end today, Montreal would be matched up against Washington, and Ottawa would have Toronto.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I'm any of those top teams, if I'm either one of those looking at the potential of a first round matchup, I'm hoping the Canadians drop out of that second spot. To me, they are the scariest team out of that bunch who are poised to make the postseason. To me, they have the potential to make a first round upset over anybody else.
Doesn't the game tend to get tighter in the postseason, and teams that can't stop a beach ball have troubles?
Yeah.
And Montreal can't stop a beach ball.
Something about Montreal, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's just in my mind, they shouldn't be there. But yet there they are. They just keep hanging on. But not realistically, but statistically, Buffalo is still in the playoff picture. So I don't know what to make of the East. It's
okay. That's enough Buffalo references for one episode.
That's one.
Yeah, exactly. Nicholas, I'm guessing you want this Ottawa Montreal thing because we're looking at some unprecedented potential Canadian amount of teams. Especially,
I said this yesterday on my other podcast. I said I would actually prefer dropping to the second wildcard spot to face Washington.
Why?
I know how scary that is. I actually don't trust us in a first. The way that the standings are right now, if we were to finish today, we'd face Ottawa. I don't trust us against Ottawa. I don't trust us against Montreal. Obviously, I don't trust us against Tampa, nor do I trust us against Florida.
But
I
by the way,
genuinely think
the us he's referring to are the Maple Leafs,
the Leafs, yeah,
organization. Yeah. Yes. Which, by the way, given their history, trusting them in the first round against anybody is not exactly something to write home about.
Well, that's my point.
Your opponent hasn't. The opponent of the Leafs have been the least of their problems in recent history.
You're very right.
The Leafs have been their problems in recent history.
I can't deny that. I cannot deny that.
We just got a lot of Canadian teams. Yeah, we've got five of the possible 7 of them that would qualify today. And like I said, Calgary and Vancouver even though they're 6 and 7 points behind the Wild, they've got games in hand and head to head coming up. It's very possible that one of the two Western Canadian teams can hop in there to join the Jets and a very probably sitting comfortably the Oilers as well in the playoff race. By the way, you know what's incredible? The Oilers have only gone to one shootout all year. I know shootouts are down, but I don't know. It just seems like for a team like that, it's shocking to me they've only been in one.
Wow.
Yeah. 3-on-3 overtime's working. That's what for most teams. But no, bottom of the East. You know, Montreal, the New Yorks, Columbus, Detroit. I mean, let's see. You look at records. If you count overtime losses as losses, not like the half loss, nobody is above 500 in their last 10. Mm-mm. That's how well the bottom of the Eastern playoff race is going right now.
You know who is at 500 in the bottom of the East, if you count their overtime loss as a loss?
The Islanders?
The Buffalo Sabres.
I was going to say the Pittsburgh Penguins, but if you want to bring up the Buffalo Sabres again, that's fine.
Dude, that's three. That's 3 times we've mentioned them. By the way, side note to the Penguins, Mike Sullivan is fed up with his team, according to a report today that there was an F-bomb leading quote after, I believe, was practice of all things. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think they're done. The math 6 points out and have played 3 more games doesn't work well in the mathing scenario there. But so, prediction: who's wild card number 2, Nicholas? When we talk in 2 weeks, who's going to be there then?
I'd say I like the Islanders' chances. Maybe not as of recently. Before the last week, they were on like a 7-1-2 run. Now they're evened out, but I don't know. I think the Islanders. I think the Islanders take the last spot.
Richard, who's going to be wild card 2 when we talk again on this edition?
I think it's still going to be Montreal.
Okay, I'm with that. I'm going to go Columbus. I'm going to go Columbus.
Okay. Is that because they're going games in hand on New York?
Yeah, and they've got some home games coming up on their schedule, which they do well.
They're 2-7-1 in their last 10 isn't bothering you at all?
Once again, everything bothers me about the bottom of that. But they beat the Islanders on the road this week.
And took them a shootout, but they did it.
Yep, they've got an interesting stretch coming up with Vancouver, Ottawa, but then they've got Nashville, Colorado, and then they go back to Ontario for a couple games. And then there is that team from that's near Niagara Falls that they play as well at home. Before we talk again, those who shall not be named. They've got a lot of home games. They got a lot of games on home ice. I think that they go on a little bit of a run. I mean, I don't trust any of these teams.
No, to me, the only game on that schedule that's in their favor has got to be Nashville. And potentially the Buffalo one, but that's so late in the season, I don't know if that's really going to matter. And then you got 2 games against Washington, who's at that point probably got nothing to play for. They've probably wrapped up the President's Trophy or at least given up on it. The Vancouver and the Ottawa games, those are going to be some tough ones. And I don't know if I have faith in the Blue Jackets to rally on that.
We'll see. So, but yeah, the bottom of the East is definitely interesting, and I mean then there's the Atlantic race. I mean, the Atlantic race is, I think, under the radar right now. Everything was Florida, but and that's been the talk of the town since they made their moves and all that. But I mean, guys, I told you at the deadline that I really liked what Tampa did for the playoffs, but what they're doing is turning out to be for the regular season. I mean, they're 2 points away from taking over that division. And everybody's got almost identical records. I mean, Toronto and Florida are 43-25-3. Tampa's 41-25-5, but they all have 35 regulation wins. So, I mean, tiebreakers be darned there. Like regulation, winning and getting your 2 points and not making a 3 point game is going to be what wins the Atlantic. And they've all got similar East schedules down the stretch in terms of strength. And really, it's going to come down to guys who just plays better in the Atlantic.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just taking a look at Tampa's schedule coming down the stretch. They got a couple of, I don't want to say gimme games, but not terribly difficult games to end March, against Utah and the Islanders. Um, but yeah, as you mentioned, the other teams in the Atlantic, Florida's also got Utah, but then they have what I'm going to stand by this. They got a difficult game against Montreal to end the month.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of strength of schedule, when you look at Tankathon, who tracks this, all of them have 11 games left. 547 winning percentage for Florida, 544 for Toronto, 532 for Tampa. 19, 20, and 24th hardest schedules in the league. Whereas Ottawa, by the way, 31st, they got an easy schedule left. But I mean, those three teams, it's Florida has to. They've got one game. Florida has 2 games versus Tampa, 2 games versus Toronto, 1 versus Tampa. Toronto has 2 versus Florida, obviously 1 versus Tampa, and then Tampa, then 1 of each. But Tampa, I mean, after that, they've got Buffalo twice, the Islanders twice, the Rangers twice. That's a tasty schedule for Tampa. Toronto's still got to play LA again. They've got to do Anaheim and San Jose, so they've got a West Coast trip left, which is never easy this time of year. They've also got to face Carolina. I think Toronto's it's not easy for them down the stretch. Florida's got to play Montreal twice and Detroit twice, both playing for their lives. So, I mean, is it Tampa's division to win at this point?
Well, I'm looking at that April 15th game. That if things are going the way they are right now, that's going to be the decider of the division. Florida at Tampa.
Second to last game of the year. Could come down to that.
So are we just writing Toronto off as the top seed?
Yes.
Like I will happily.
Sorry,
agree
wait.
with it
Sorry,
too.
I didn't mean to
I'm
jump the gun
not.
there.
I'm not necessarily. I'm not
I
writing them
happily
off.
agree with it.
No.
I mean, I think they have the toughest. I think as easy as when you look at overall record, and that's what this is strength of schedule and overall. But the fact that the San Jose, the Southern California, West Coast swing comes into play, I don't think is easy for Toronto's schedule.
No, I completely agree. I think Tampa is. I think we said has the easiest schedule out of them. I would not be surprised if Toronto drops to the third spot. I would not be surprised.
And we're going to know a lot more by the end of this weekend because this West Coast swing is this weekend. I mean, they played 3 games in 4 days, starting up in Northern California, in San Jose, and then down to the SoCal for the LA Anaheim back-to-back this weekend. Then they get a break. They get a break of a couple days, and oh, by the way, then you have Florida, your first game back after the West Coast trip. I'll predict April 9th, we know who wins this division. They play back-to-back nights. I mean, talk about their schedule makers do nothing for them. They're going to Sunrise and Tampa back-to-back nights on April 8th and 9th. Like Toronto, the schedule makers did not do Toronto any favors. Any favors.
We wouldn't be in this position if we beat Nashville.
Oh, that's true.
It's part of it.
You got to beat those teams.
Yeah. I mean, you could have beaten Florida earlier in the month. You could have beaten Ottawa earlier in the month.
Yeah, but if you're going to take points or
stopped
if
a
you're gonna
puck
drop
versus
points.
Yeah, but you could stop a puck versus Colorado.
Again, though, if you're going to drop points, dropping them to Nashville.
Yeah, it happens. I mean,
yeah.
Any given night, blah, 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 blah.
The Sharks also, you probably could have picked up some points or 2 points there instead of 1.
Yeah. It's okay. They got revenge tomorrow night in the Shark Tank.
I wish that was on a Sunday so we could do our Sunday.
There you go. Yeah, no, I think I will not be shocked if Toronto ends up as the one, or sorry, if Tampa ends up as the one seed out of the Atlantic,
Yeah,
which would just be insane.
yeah, they got the easiest path. So
And I actually think a lot of Canadians are hoping for that because I don't think they want two Canadian teams matching up in the first round. The future 51st state really wants all their teams to not play each other, so they don't have to knock each other out and they can break the 93 curse, which is not going to happen this year. But that's a whole nother conversation.
you don't think Winnipeg's going to do it?
No,
They're
no,
not the team to break the curse.
I don't think so.
Who? Okay, which Canadian team do you think has the best shot?
If healthy, Edmonton.
Okay, I mean they had their chance last year.
They're yeah. I think if healthy, Edmonton. Their goaltending has definitely been shaky as of late. Um, but
Since
I
like
also
'06.
but I also think they have the easiest path to the conference finals to stay healthy. I think that's part of it. I I'm not Vegas and LA are not exciting me as hard path to get through.
LA,
You know,
who's won 9 of their last 10.
I'm not saying that they're not good and that I predicted them early in the year to have a really good year.
Yeah.
I'm still on their bandwagon, but when would you rather go through LA and Vegas or Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess I'd rather have the LA route. Hmm.
And
Yeah,
and
they're
the
playing with fire wherever.
and can we talk about LA's winning streak as of late? Home games against Carolina, Boston, and the Rangers. So one quality team in that mix, right? In Carolina, who's been hot, but I mean that's the East going west. They beat the Blackhawks. They beat Nashville in a whole 1-0 game. Shutting out Washington was impressive. Once again, another home win versus the Islanders. I mean, they have been home heavy with their wins. You know, this is after they lost to St. Louis, Chicago back to back, is when they ripped off this streak where they've only lost to Minnesota. But like I said, I'm not impressed. The streak of LA isn't impressing me, so to speak, as their strength more than they're beating the teams that they should beat.
Okay.
And are we trusting Darcy Kempfer again in the playoffs?
Hey, Stanley Cup champion Darcy Kemper. Thank
That's
you.
what I'm saying. I mean, like sneaky Stanley Cup champion Darcy Kempfer. Yes, but are we thinking he is this year's in Colorado Avalanche's Darcy Kemper, or is the Washington Capital Darcy Kempfer going to show back up?
I think we're gonna see some above average play from Darcy Kemper in the playoffs. I think he's got a good shot at taking out the first series against Edmonton.
Yeah, I mean that's they will probably have. I mean, if you're going head to head, they have the better goaltending in that series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because Skinner is. I mean, Skinner can't be trusted. He's been real shaky as of late. Picard is doing what he does as a backup, which is throwing up a 90 save percentage, which is not great, but it's what you want out of a backup. But like I said, the big question with Edmonton is the health of Draisaitl and McDavid down the stretch and into the playoffs. So, yeah, I just like I said, I think that the Pacific Path is probably the easiest path of the four paths to a conference final.
So right now you're between the two wild cards. You're more excited for Minnesota's possible path through the playoffs than St. Louis. St. Louis having to play Winnipeg right now if the season were to end.
I think that can you ask for a better goaltending matchup of regular season versus a big game guy? I mean, Binnington has become a big game goalie. Hellebuck is Mr. Regular Season, potentially on his way to another Vezina. Potentially. I mean, Winnipeg St. Louis is that's a matchup. That's definitely a matchup for sure. But I mean, don't look now. The Blues are only 2 points behind the Wild, so they could flip spots.
They could, but just as of the standings today, you're more confident in Minnesota's path through Vegas than you
Yes.
would.
I think the one of the most important seeds in the entire playoffs is West Wildcard one. Getting to go through the Pacific versus the Central to me is a huge advantage.
Okay.
So because if you're Wildcard two, let's say you get by Winnipeg, your reward is a Dallas or Colorado visit in game one and two versus an LA or Edmonton visit.
And hoping for that LA visit.
Probably so you don't get outscored by Edmonton.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if Edmonton's that team, if they get on a roll, watch out.
Hmm.
You know, they're one of those teams that once they click, they click. But I mean that what's most impressive to me is when you look at the playoffs and like the different divisions is how well the playoff teams in the West, like the top three in each division, are playing right now. They're not. Winnipeg has nothing to play for. They just got to wrap up and get to that magic number to clinch the one seed in the West throughout. But they're winning 7 of their last 10. The Stars have points in 8 of their last 10. Colorado is on a roll with 9 of their last 10 points, winning 3 in a row. Vegas and LA have won 4 in a row when we talk. The Blues in that, well, they've won 7 in a row. The Flames are trying to keep pace, winning 4 in a row. I mean, like, all the teams in the West are doing it. When you look at the East, 500 for the Leafs, nearly 500 for the Panthers, just above 500 for Lightning. Capitals and Hurricanes are the only teams in the East, and Ottawa. Those 3 teams, they're the only 3 teams in the East that are playing well. You have 3 teams in the East playing well. In the last, everybody else is just meandering.
Yeah, one of those 3 teams doesn't even have to be playing that well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 13 Capitals are 13 points ahead. I think they're fine.
Yeah,
Pretty sure they're 1 seed in the East. We pretty much know the 1 seeds in each. That's what we're at. But yeah, Vegas is going to win the West. Pretty sure of that. So we've got the 2-3 flip. Who gets home ice in the 2-3? And then where does wild card? Who ends up at wild card 2 in the West? And it's there's a lot of not much going on. But what's impressive to me, I guess, or unimpressive to me, is how bad most of the East is right now. This is where you want teams to start clicking with 10, 12 games to go. It's not happening for most of the teams in the East.
no. And I don't know. It's something about the red. If you're looking on the NHL's website and the standings and the red goal differentials, just how horrible they are once you get past that wild card 1 in the East. Like the Rangers of all teams that have the best goal differential of any team chasing. But it's just wow.
And that's because of how well they started.
Yeah. Yeah, minus 23 for Montreal, minus 22 for Detroit, minus 16 for the Islanders. Yeah. It's just a stark contrast.
So it's the East is just it's so like you want I just want better. I just want better. But we'll see how it all shapes out. This is, to me, I guess the only advantage is the East. Whoever comes out of the East may be in better shape than the juggernaut that the West is turning into for the playoff race. Because the Western path should be more brutal than the Eastern path.
That's fair.
But I'm like I said, Tampa. I'm really starting to get on their bandwagon. That trade deadline deal, I love it, and I think watch out. I think watch out for Tampa for a playoff run.
Now, since you're in the region, I want to get your thoughts about the current state of the St. Louis Blues. I remember a few weeks ago you had talked about them. I believe you had written them off for a playoff chance. Now, I mean, they got a difficult task ahead of them because they have essentially 2 or 3 games or the teams chasing them have 2 or 3 games in hand but they still have a good 4 points up on Calgary. What are your feelings about them holding on and making it into the postseason?
I like how easy their schedule is. I think that's a huge help to them. I mean, their toughest game left, I think, is this weekend at Colorado. They still have to go to Winnipeg, but that's in like the final 4 games of the year where Winnipeg probably is not playing for anything at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows on a Monday night in Winnipeg what lineup they're going to throw out there. They they they've got Pittsburgh and Detroit at home, and then they end the year with an Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle's a road trip for them. They come home for the hockey club. Like to me, their schedule. I think they're in the playoffs. I mean, I think they could even get wild card one. What I think was interesting and what I didn't realize when they developed when I predicted that the standing pad at the trade deadline I thought was bad, but what it turned out was it sounds like the players went to Shen and asked him to not want to be traded. That in the locker room they sensed how important he was as their captain and to the team, and the team believed in themselves. And I give a lot of credit to Jim Montgomery. I mean, this is that Craig Berube 19 coaching change bump type thing that we're seeing. Do I think they're going to have the long run? No, I don't think they're going to win the cup. But it has that feel here locally. But the fact that the players went to Shen and said, don't go, when you have players start believing in it and they're buying into what the coach is putting out there, that's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And then throw on top of it is I mean, Jordan Binnington has made his career in big games. You know, when you look at his overall numbers of a 273 and a 900 save percentage is nothing, right? I mean, it's not great at all. But he's played really well recently. He's had 2 bad games in his last 8 games. He had a real flop versus Vancouver, giving up a few goals on a low number of shots, and then Pittsburgh, they had a debacle in Pittsburgh. But otherwise, he played well versus Montreal and Nashville and Anaheim. Once again, easy schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's no fluke that they've won 7 in a row. I thought they were going to get off to a little bit, faster rebound once they got Jim Montgomery in. This is a coach I've seen here at DU. Followed a little bit of what he did in Dallas before he had to leave, and then following what he did in Boston. I'm still convinced that dismissal from Boston was probably one of the biggest mistakes that franchise has recently done. Because what was happening in Boston, I don't think was Jim Montgomery's fault. And then getting picked up by St. Louis, I think that was probably one of the smartest moves that St. Louis has done in a while. And right now it's paying off. I think it's going to pay off for them long term. I don't know. I'm maybe starting to buy in that depending on where they finish in the wild card, they could potentially get through the first round. I don't know if they're getting past the second round, depending on who they're going to face up, but they could be a first round upset.
But good. I mean, I could see it. Like I said, I mean, the team's playing well, and momentum means everything. And depending who if they get the Pacific route, I could see it. I could definitely see him making a run through one or two of those Pacific teams. That's not out of the question. I think I'll give them credit. They've righted the ship, and they're playing really strong hockey, of course, as of right now. And they're the one thing I guess that I would worry about if I'm a Blues fan is the easy schedule that they've had recently, and that they're going to have down the stretch, and then you've got to amp it up, and you're playing teams that are much better than you are now. But I mean, they've played. This month they've had Nashville twice. They've had the Hawks. They've had Anaheim. They've had the Kings 3 times, which is odd there, but they've took care of business, winning 2 out of 3 there. But they tripped up versus the Penguins. They've got Nashville again this month. they're they've had a lot of soft wins. Oh, and then the thing is too, are they playing so well right now and blowing all their energy and all it takes and being in that playoff battle now that mental exhaustion, everybody talks about it. Are they peaking too early? Is everything going out now, or are they going to continue that run? So, and we don't know until they play, but
Yeah.
that is sometimes what you worry about with these teams down the stretch. Are they peaking now? Is this their best hockey?
Yeah. Is Winnipeg peaking now, or are we not going to see them?
But Winnipeg's done this before.
Oh yeah, I know. No, they haven't won the division before, but yeah, they've done long stretches.
Yeah, but I mean, like they've had runs in the regular season before. I don't know. I don't think Winnipeg's peaking
I don't
necessarily, but
either.
but yeah, I mean, this is uncharted territory that they're going to be able to hang a division banner. That is true. I mean, they're used to second and third places. This is above their skis, but also they scored, I believe, 110 points last year in second place.
They did.
So it's not like they had a soft second place finish last year. 110 is not terrible.
No, it's just still probably the most difficult division to play in hockey
Yeah,
is the Central.
it's the most skilled division.
It
Top
is.
in terms of depth on teams, it's the most skilled division
Yeah.
in hockey. I got no transition to Manscaped, who's our friends.
I was wondering how you
I
were going to
can't.
get that.
I have no way to cut to Manscaped, but I will trim up some of the segment, and we'll get to Manscaped, and you can trim yourself up and all that good stuff. PHN15 is the code. Manscaped.com. Get them going. We got Jersey talk.
hmm
You found some good stuff out there, Richard.
Yeah, perusing through the interwebs, it didn't disappoint. I first of all, I was going through my usual, what's trending in the hockey news world, and I didn't notice this to begin the season, and I'm sure other people had heard about it well before I did. Um, the Cleveland Pierogies. And I saw that pop up. I'm like, what is this? Like, are they throwing pierogies onto the ice? Are they like what's going on? No, the I believe it's not this weekend, but next weekend, the Cleveland Monsters are going to have a rebranding for the weekend as they take on the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins as the Cleveland Pierogies. They will have a pierogi mascot in the stands. They will have pierogi jerseys that they will be wearing. Um, and I complete with pictures on a website that I came across. I thought, well, it's a newish jersey here. Let's talk. How did they come across with the pierogi design? How did they adapt this food into a hockey logo? And I see Adam very strenuously going over the jersey design, and it looks like he's got some thoughts.
Here's my biggest question. What like why Polish theme for Cleveland, who doesn't even have the top 10 Polish population in America?
Yeah,
I was confused where Cleveland was pulling out the pierogies. That's that is my biggest thing.
okay. As long as it's the biggest.
According to some statistics, 4.8%. There's 22,000 people in Cleveland that are identified, I guess, as Polish ancestry. I mean, they're below the likes of the Pittsburghs and the San Diegos and the Toledos. They even have less people than Toledo does. There, Phoenix, more Polish folks. Chickamauga, New York has more. And then, of course, Chicago, Philly, which is known for their Polish population. It's okay. I mean, it's an okay jersey. There's nothing that excites me about the jersey, but apparently the reason when I did my research, I did do research before this. Apparently Cleveland was the first city to ever sell a pierogi in the U.S. That's where it came from.
They also have a contest to name the pierogi, name the mascot that's going to be going around the stands. And I thought maybe it might be a little fun to enter in a PHN vote. And amongst the brain trust here that is the shorthanded first line, if we can come up with a good name to submit to name the pierogi. I feel like this type of food I'm not terribly familiar with. There's not a big pierogi, I don't know, availability from where I
I,
grew up and where I am now.
I'm an expert. My little one is a big pierogi fan.
Okay.
There's often a in the freezer two varieties from fresh time in our freezer because they so I'm very familiar with the cooking of them and the taste of them and the style. If we want to go alliteration, I think Peter pierogi is an easy name there. If you want to have a little fun with it, I could throw Monty out there, kind of because it's for the monsters. So Monty the pierogi, I think, could be
Okay.
fun there. Or you can just go Cleat.
I was gonna go Cleve.
Cleve, yeah, for
Yeah.
Cleveland, yeah, Cleve. Okay.
Nicholas, are you a pierogi connoisseur?
I love pierogies. I want to start by saying this does not look like a pierogi,
No,
but
it looks like a poorly drawn pizza, but I guess they get the point.
uh, I'm going more on the lines of like food. So I was thinking like cheesy the pierogi or like dippy the pierogi.
Dippy. I like Dippy.
I see your face, Adam. You don't
What do you dip your
not
pierogi in?
respond.
What do you dip
Sour
in
cream.
pierogies? Sour. Are you dipping or you slathering on top?
I dip. I'm a
Okay.
dipper.
Okay. You're a dipper. Okay. Got it.
All right.
Okay.
Um,
Are we just gonna go
I'm
with the
on
pierogi
I'm on
talk?
board with Monty and with Cleve. Dippy's pretty good. I don't know. I think I'm gonna do Monty because I like the nod to the monsters. I think we should submit that as our official vote. Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
getting nods from Nicholas. Adam, you on board with that, or you want to fight for one of the other ones?
I,
I mean,
I,
he
I,
named it, so like,
Right, right.
yeah.
I know that's one of his suggestions, but if you liked one better,
I mean, you could
Peter's
also go with,
okay, but
yeah, I think it's okay. Pier, because Pier spell is how you start pierogi, but it sounds too
yeah,
French. If
right.
you go Pier pierogi, but Cleveland has piers because they're on the lake. I mean, Lake Erie. Yeah, whatever name they come up with, I'm sure will be great.
All right. Well, I'm gonna put in Monty.
Okay, you allow that.
Yeah, Monty the pierogi, and we will enter that
And
live as we are recording this.
now we've got another AHL one of a what might have been story. Are you
Y-
familiar? Are you aware of the Rockford rebranding? Have you looked into it, or did you just
I
see the jersey?
glanced a little bit at the explanation of the rebranding of the Mighty Oaks.
Yep.
But I believe, Adam, you might have a little bit more insight into this
Yeah.
since it affects the club that you follow
I,
closely.
I also, I was still living in the Chicago area, about 90 miles from the old Rockford grounds there. So they were in the U-Haul, the United Hockey League, in '99 when they came in. And one of the finalist names was the Mighty Oaks, and it has to go with Rockford is known as the Forest City, and oaks are a big oak trees are a big part of it, and they've had a lot of that. By the way, Arthur Oakley was the one of the first most prominent people out there in Winnebago County on the edge of the Rock River to settle. So oak has always been part of the name. So that's where they're getting the Mighty Oaks from. They're playing a what
Mhm.
could have been. They're
Right.
basically a Blackhawks barber pole jersey look to it and throwing a fierce acorn, just what their logo. It's a red bearded acorn.
It's almost like a Nordic acorn
Okay, you can.
I thought
is
more of a
how I would
lumberjack,
describe it.
but
He's fierce. It's the fiercest acorn I've ever seen.
Yes, I
So
will concur. That is the fiercest acorn I have ever seen.
yep. So they're doing it on April 5th for a game and going back to like what could have been and a tie to the city of Rockford and the region. So good on them.
So, uh, So as we're talking about the jerseys, I mean, you mentioned the barber pole
Yep.
version of the Blackhawks jersey. Do you think they could have done anything better, or is that, I mean, is that your favorite style they would have gone with?
No, I've never liked the barber pole look for
Yeah,
anybody's jersey. I don't like when the Hawks done it. I don't like when Toronto's done it. I really don't like when Montreal and Ottawa. I'm not a barber pole jersey fan. It's not. It's not my style.
what would you have rather have seen with the mighty? I think they nailed the logo.
The
I
logo's
think that
great. The
that's
crest is
fantastic.
great.
I want that on something.
Yes.
But as far as the jerseys, they could have gone with like just like a plain Blackhawks home jersey. I think
See, I
would
would
have
have
been
gone
great.
away from team colors. I would have gone like maybe like a forest type look, maybe a green and brown, and really kind of leaned into the oakiness of it. Like a fine Chardonnay, make it very oaky.
With the red beard on the green sweater. I don't know if I could do
Yeah.
that, but
Oh, I mean, think about a red, something up top red with green below. Huh.
nah.
I wonder who's
Nah,
ever
doesn't do
tried
it
that.
for
That
me.
has looked good. Who has ever had a
Nobody
look
has
of a red
nobody has
top
ever done
with a
that to look
green
good.
bottom?
Never.
I don't know if that's
Nobody.
ever been done in an amazing looking way.
It has not. I can tell you that right now. It has not.
Hmm. If Lonnie was here, we would have some support from me on that.
You see, even the
Definitely.
intern's not going to get in on this, so we're just going to
Not
say
for
it
me,
has
no.
never been done.
It has been done.
No, it has never been done well.
Lovely. Well, that's a matter of opinion there, buddy. But that's not our best jersey of the week, in my opinion. Best jersey. Oh, opening day baseball coming up this week. That is, we play that here in the States. I believe you had a team up there in Toronto. You have a good player.
293.
Were you born?
I wasn't born, but I have them.
Okay, yeah,
both
okay.
recorded.
It doesn't, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They also used to have a team in Montreal at one
They did,
Yep,
yes.
the Expos.
Yes. And there's Vlad's about to leave and come south of the border, so but the Baltimore Orioles are embracing the past of the Skipjacks, the old Baltimore Skipjacks hockey team, and in April 18th they are giving away a jersey, a sweater. It is the fiercest looking Oriole I have ever seen. Like, I love it. Like, mainly a black jersey, great orange outlines on it. You know a bat slash hockey stick combination. Man, that bird looks like he wants to fight people. He's even on skates. They even put a skate on it. Like, I love what they're doing with this.
You know, I like the color scheme. I'm not so crazy about the logo. Don't get me wrong. That is a fierce looking Oriole. To me, this just screams Pittsburgh Penguins. Like, just his stance and the anthropomorphic bird on skates. Like, maybe if the Penguins had something that fierce looking, I would fear them a little bit more this season. But I don't know. I think that it was a swing and a miss on the logo. I think they could have done better.
I think the idea was there. I agree with you, Richard. I like the jersey, the color scheme, and everything. I think the logo could have been a little bit better.
I think the logo's great. I think the logo's great. But the Penguin, I don't think the Penguin has ever looked fierce.
He's never looked fierce, but just
Like, he looks. I mean, I've always felt he's been way too flexible looking. Have you noticed his legs? Like,
I mean, they are
like,
pretty far apart.
yeah.
But-
For a little, like, penguins waddle, and he's like Mr. Flexibility there.
That's wondering where you're going to go with that. I don't know, just something about it just screams Pittsburgh Penguins to me. I don't know what it
It's
is.
a bird.
Not just that, like just the way the skates are on. I don't know. It's the slight
The skates are on
triangle
aren't-
shape to it.
Oh, okay. The way the skates are, because the bird. So because it's a bird with a skate, and it's the only team that has a bird with a skate, it's automatically associated with Pittsburgh.
Sure, why not? We'll go. It's just, I don't know, something about it. Like I can't put my finger on it, but something about this just like, I don't know.
Black and orange is too close to black and yellow.
Not even that, but just the design of the logo. Just my mind immediately goes Penguins. I'm not thinking Orioles. I don't know. I think it was a swing and a miss on that. Even if they would have just gone with like the Orioles home jerseys and put Orioles across in cursive letters, I think that would have looked better.
It's
All
way
right.
more fun. I mean, there was a whole era where Pittsburgh didn't even have a skating penguin on their jersey.
I know. And I loved that. The
Like,
triangular penguin was awesome.
was it? Was it?
Sure was.
We'll agree to disagree. When they went to that black jersey with like yellow lines and white lines on each side of the penguin, I thought it was pretty terrible look.
No, but the road jerseys were like the white ones were fantastic.
I mean, I kind of felt bad for Lemieux and Yager having to wear that.
Yeah, darn, they were only some of the greatest players to,
I know they had to wear that crap.
yeah. It could have been worse. They could have been playing for the Devils when they moved
No,
from
I don't
Colorado.
know. I don't know about that.
Wearing
Don't
green
know
and
about
red. Yeah.
That time, Richard.
It is that time.
It's where we look smart.
I mean, sure. Well, we'll go with that. Yes.
It's where we give people entertainment value.
Entertainment value from this podcast. All right. It is time for the PHN picks of the week. Recap of last week and a nod to Nicholas. Nicholas, did you fill this out when? Yeah, I thought so because as we were halfway through the episode, I realized I forgot to go and do the picks. So, Adam, full transparency, I did not make these picks this week. But recap of last week, Adam, not so hot at 1-5. That puts him at 17-28 for the season. I, just like, most of the Eastern Conference, right around 500 from last week, 3-3. I am 22-28. Same with Lonnie. Nicholas going 4-2 last week. I don't have totals on him. I will have to go back and add them up because I think he's only been with us for a few episodes. So we'll add those up and see how he is later on. But
do you realize this year could be historical for me?
it could be the worst year for you.
I've never been below 500 in our picks over a season.
Yeah, you've only got a few weeks.
If people listen to me, they have made money.
Yeah, not this season.
No, not this season. No. I've come down to the commoner like you folk. That's
Yes.
what's happened.
Yep.
Yes.
You've fallen from grace, as one might say.
Yes, I haven't been very graceful. That is correct.
All right, let's get to this week's picks. See if Adam can.
So I can't yell at you about your picks on Saturday.
No, you got to yell at Nicholas. You got to yell at Nicholas. And yeah, so we're gonna start with game number 1. Obviously, these are Nicholas's picks. Toronto at LA.
Why? Because they're
right
good?
off the bat.
Toronto.
I was looking for the most well matched up games in terms of nearing the end of the season, who could fall, who could go up.
Oh no, this is a good pick. I find it ironic that it's just the first game and it comes from
you did
Toronto fan.
I will say you did almost perfect.
Which one would you have changed?
We'll get to it. We got to go in order here. Yeah, can't skew the picks.
Can't skew the picks.
Got to go with Adam right off the bat.
I'm gonna go with the Kings. They're hot. They're gonna stay hot.
All right, Nicholas.
I'm gonna take the Leafs.
All right, I am gonna go with the Kings as well. All right, game number 2: the Columbus Blue Jackets at the Ottawa Senators. Big playoff implications here. I'm gonna start with Nicholas.
I'm taking the Senators.
I'm going to go with the Senators as well. I am not too encouraged by how Columbus is playing as of late. Adam, are you going to disagree?
Yes, I am.
All right. Columbus it is.
Yep. I said they're going to be in the playoff race when we come back here, so I kind of have to.
Yeah, you got to own up to that.
Yeah.
All right. Game number 3, we have the New York Islanders at the Tampa Bay Lightning. Adam, who you got?
This is, for the record, this is a game I would have changed. I would have put the Battle of Alberta on a Saturday night in there over this game. but I'll pick Tampa.
All right. Nicholas?
I'm also going to take Tampa.
I don't think any of us were going to take the Islanders in that one. I will take Tampa
Well,
as
see,
well.
so we should switch to the Oilers and Flames since all three of us picked the same thing.
Adam, would you
Okay.
pick the Oilers?
I would pick the Oilers, yeah.
Oilers, and I'm sure Jacob would, not Jacob. Jacob would pick the
Wow.
Oilers, but he's
Wrong,
not with
wrong,
us.
Pick the Oilers.
wrong Canadian.
Nicholas would pick. So, all right. Game number 4. We have the St. Louis Blues at the Colorado Avalanche. Let's start out with Nicholas. Who you got?
Give me the Avs.
What are you going with, Richard?
All right. I'm gonna go with the Avs as well.
I'm going to go with St. Louis to stay hot.
All right. Okay. Game number 5, we have the New Jersey Devils at the Minnesota Wild. Adam, who you got?
New Jersey. I like New Jersey. Minnesota's in a tailspin. Let's go with Jersey.
All right.
Even though they're on a back-to-back, that's my only problem with that is Jersey's coming out of Winnipeg. It's a tough turn.
That's a tough turn. All right, Nicholas.
I'm going to take the Wild.
All right. I will take the Wild as well. I am not terribly enthusiastic with New Jersey as of late, and Adam mentioned, that back-to-back could hurt them. All right, final game, the PWHL Game of the Week. We have the Ottawa Charge versus the Boston Fleet. Adam?
Which is being played in
I don't actually have the schedule up.
I know
St. Louis.
No.
Ooh, that's part of the stadium takeover, isn't it?
It is the part of the takeover. I'm excited for it. My little one is super excited for it. I like both teams here. I think it's gonna be a fun day for them. I know people here are excited, but I think Boston definitely comes out on top.
All right. Boston. I am going to take Boston as well. I don't know. Something about the Fleet I like this season. All right. Nicholas, who you got?
Clean sweep. Clean sweep.
Boston as well. All right.
And by the way, good chance you see overtime when Boston's involved. 10 games going to overtime this year for that team out of 40.
What's their overtime record?
6-4.
Okay. At least they come out on top most of the time.
There you
Should
go.
we also
All
do
right.
the Battle of Alberta? Or we did that already. We were just
Yeah. I mean, it was going to be unanimous anyway, so. All right. There are our picks of the week. You can follow us on Blue Sky at PHN Podcast, and you can use the hashtag PHN Picks to submit your picks and see how well you do against one Adam Minnick.
Just me?
Just you.
Just me. Okay.
You're the bar we're setting right now.
It's not been a good bar this year. It's not been a good bar. It's that time for closing thoughts. We'll start with our man north of the border. Likes to use the word we and us.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick the intern.
So I actually have something for this week. Richard will be happy. So in 1978, the Philadelphia Flyers tried to drug their goalie by giving him a drugged steak. Their goalie at the time was Bernie Parent, and he was known for getting extremely nervous before games. So before a playoff matchup, the Flyers coach Fred Sherrow allegedly asked the team's trainer to slip a mild sedative into Parent's pregame steak to help him relax. I did not know that. I also was 20 years not alive, but besides the point.
If you combine the first and second line, 2 people were alive in 1978 that do these podcast extravaganzas.
Yeah. Neither of them are here, are they?
Neither of them are here. That is correct. That is correct. Richard?
All right. Well, I don't have any historical facts to bring up here, but the other day I decided I needed to grow a collection that I keep here in the podcast studio. It started back in 2017 when I got an inaugural season puck for the Vegas Golden Knights. It has grown to be with the Seattle Kraken. And now I was going to say proud, but I am an owner of an inaugural season Utah Hockey Club puck. My biggest contemplation right now is, do I get one when they get a name, or do I just stick with the inaugural season of the Utah Hockey Club? That is the big dilemma that is tossing around in my brain right now. I don't know if I will ever solve it, but I'll probably just stick with the puck. I don't know if I'm going to buy another Utah hockey thing, but the collection is growing for teams that have expanded since we have started this podcast. We are now up to 3, and I believe 3 is the definition of a collection.
Okay. So that's what it's a collection of teams that have come into existence since you've podcasted.
Since the podcast has started, yes.
Okay. So you've got 2 more to add here in a couple of years. So you'll have to get Houston.
Yes.
You'll have to get Houston and Atlanta.
Houston and Arizona, yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. Well, but if they're the Arizona Coyotes, can it be an inaugural season puck?
Did the Winnipeg Jets have an inaugural season when the Thrashers moved up there?
Well, that was the reincarnation. Don't know if that was inaugural. Yeah. It would not be the Winnipeg Jets inaugural season because there was a Winnipeg Jets.
Right.
So that's just like if Utah gets. So I believe if Utah gets a name, you have to get it because their name, it is the inaugural season of that name and of that style.
But not of the franchise.
That's is it franchise or is it the name?
I'm going with franchise.
Okay.
But then, I mean, is it technically a new franchise, the Utah Hockey Club? I mean, they don't get all the records from Arizona, so technically, but they weren't in an expansion, but they were sort of treated like this is just a giant gray area with Utah.
Well, you have to settle on what the definition of your puck collection is.
Yeah.
Because if it's new teams, then if Arizona gets a team back, they would be a new team since it started.
But they would also be a new franchise, so it would fall under both buckets.
Okay. Yeah.
See my dilemma here?
You are dilemmaed.
You're
very dilemmaed.
I'm very troubled here.
Well, no, this is more dilemmaed than troubled.
Okay.
You're not troubled about this. We can talk. That's a whole. Go lay down on the couch and we can talk about that. This is dilemmaed. That's just okay. This is interesting. This is wow. You've brought up a whole thing that I never thought of.
Maybe we just do an entire postseason episode on what's a new franchise and what would constitute me getting a new puck for the office.
Yeah, because that has been the 3. Because I mean, before that we hadn't had anything since. Well, I mean, 2000 was the last new franchise because Atlanta moved.
Right.
So it's the franchise didn't existed, but yeah, that's
Yeah, it was Minnesota and Columbus were the 2.
Right, back in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've because I mean because other the Anaheim Ducks changed names.
Right, but they're still
they had an inaugural
franchise.
season. Right. So this is a franchise-based piece. That's what you're going with.
I'm going to go with franchise. It has to be a new franchise.
New franchise.
Okay. It could be the same name, but it has to be a new franchise.
New franchise. Okay. Then yes. Then if a team comes back to Arizona, yes.
And I can ignore the whole Winnipeg thing because that happened before the podcast was started.
Yeah, we're not even talking about that. Not even, yeah. Because the records are in Utah now. No, they're still in Arizona.
They're still in Arizona. They're
still in Arizona, right? Because they got to keep all the records that came not from all them to make matters.
So now is it a new frame?
I mean, really, what should have happened? Let's be honest. What should have happened is all the Winnipeg records should have just gone back to Winnipeg when Arizona gave it up, but kept Arizona and moved to Utah. Really, the NHL should be like, we're going to move the Winnipeg records back to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And we're going to pretend the Thrashers never existed for the sake of everybody.
Don't we do that every day?
Yeah, but I mean, so Atlanta's former records are in 2 different cities. in a completely different country than they were a host of.
Right.
That's the crazy.
That is crazy.
They moved to Canada twice. Their records exist in Canada.
Third time's the charm.
Yes. And one of the team names still exists because it kind of works for where they moved to.
Yeah.
So I guess it's my turn. Wow.
Follow that.
Follow that. Well, I mean, the PWHL is coming to St. Louis, and I got a 9-year-old that's super excited for it. And she's going to have a blast on Saturday seeing the ladies out there in Ottawa, Boston. And no matter what the outcome is I know she's just going to love seeing pro women's hockey in person for the technically the first time in her life. This will be her second high-level women's game. We did a couple years ago in the rivalry series game, did U.S.-Canada, which was a phenomenal weekend. But yeah, seeing Ottawa, Boston, looking forward to it. And, that's it. So we'll wrap this up here. We miss Lonnie. Maybe he'll put his picks in. You should text him and tell him to put his picks in.
I will.
See if he can, keep Mount 500, getting closer to Mount 500. Because none of us are there. Yep. So, for Nick the intern, for Richard Cote, this is Adam and Nick. Thank you to our friends at MyCustomSportsShare.com and Manscaped and LDE Affinity Jewelry for making this possible. This has been another edition of the Pro Hockey News Podcast.